Speech title, built for the battle, in the style of Elon Musk, visionary, direct, driven by purpose and resilience. People like to talk about comfort, about ease, about safety. But if you're truly building something that matters, something that reshapes the future, you quickly realize comfort is irrelevant. This world doesn't reward safe bets. It rewards those who show up ready to fight for something bigger than themselves. If you're not built for the battle, you're not built for the breakthrough. Every worthwhile goal exists on the other side of resistance. Think about that. Anything that disrupts the norm, anything that advances the human story, it always begins as an impossible idea. It always meets pushback, skeptics, delays, failure, not once, over and over, but the people who make history, they expect that. They don't fold, they don't complain, they iterate, they endure, they engineer their way through. Being built for the battle means you stop chasing approval and start chasing truth. It means when the noise gets loud, you double down on signal. You optimize, not to please, but to progress. You build things that may not make sense today, but will become the standard tomorrow. That takes vision, but more than that, it takes obsession, relentless focus, borderline unreasonable determination. You don't get there by hoping, you get there by showing up, day after day, with your back against the wall and your eyes on the frontier. You do what others won't, work when they rest, think when they doubt, push when they quit. You treat pressure as data, fear as feedback, failure as iteration. You don't pray for easier problems, you design better solutions. The world will try to talk you out of it. They'll say you're unrealistic, that you're wasting your time, that it's already been tried, and maybe they're right, if you're like them. But if you're built different, if you're built for the battle, then you understand. Breakthrough only comes to the stubborn, to the resilient, to the ones who keep going, not because it's easy, but because they must. Because there's no version of reality in which they don't try. Being built for the battle means you choose long-term relevance over short-term applause. It means you're willing to be misunderstood, underestimated, even ridiculed, because you're not here to impress the crowd. You're here to change the outcome. You're not optimizing for likes. You're optimizing for legacy. There's no magic formula, no playbook for the unknown. You will bleed, you will lose, you will want to quit. And still, you keep building, because something inside you refuses to settle. Something refuses to shrink just to fit the status quo. That something, that's what makes you dangerous. So when the storm comes, and it will, you don't panic. You don't hide, you don't retreat, you recalibrate, you re-engineer, you adapt. You've already run the simulation in your mind 100 times, and no matter how many times it fails, you find one more version, one more variation, one more algorithm, until it works. This isn't a speech for the comfortable. It's not meant for those who want life handed to them. It's for the builders, the engineers, the ones who will die on the hill for something 99% of the world can't even see yet. It's for the ones who understand that disruption isn't a trend, it's a necessity, and discomfort, that's the cost of greatness. You weren't made for applause. You were made for pressure. You were made for chaos. You were made for the edge, and that's where the battle is, not in the calm, but in the unknown, in the resistance, in the fight that never ends. So stop asking if it's going to be hard. It is. Stop asking if it's worth it. You are. The real question is, are you built for the battle? Discomfort is the cost of building something that matters. It's the entrance fee to the arena where real innovation happens. When you step outside the realm of the familiar, the predictable, and the convenient, you step into the domain of risk, uncertainty, and chaos, and that's exactly where transformation lies. You don't engineer breakthroughs from a place of ease. You build them in the furnace of resistance, where every step forward is earned with grit, where every inch of progress feels like a war with gravity. The comfort zone is not just a place of stagnation. It's a breeding ground for mediocrity. And mediocrity has no place in the minds of those who are trying to reshape the future. When you set out to build something that matters, whether it's a product, a company, a vision, or an entirely new paradigm, you are declaring war on the status quo. That declaration comes with consequences. People will challenge your ideas, question your sanity, doubt your ability, and criticize your every move. You will feel friction from all directions, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something real. Discomfort is not a signal to stop. It's a confirmation that you're on the right path. It's the price of relevance, of audacity, of reaching for a version of the world that doesn't exist yet but could if you build it. You don't get to bypass the pain, the rejection, or the doubt. You embrace it because discomfort is the tool that sharpens your edge. It's the feedback that tells you where the resistance lies, and resistance is always where the potential lies. No great engineer builds a revolutionary system without crashing prototypes. No great founder launches something world-changing without first navigating 1,000 failures. No great thinker introduces a radical idea without facing mockery and misunderstanding. Discomfort doesn't mean something is broken. It means you're breaking through. If you're chasing significance, you're not chasing the easy road. The easy road leads to crowded markets, safe decisions, and forgettable outcomes. The hard road, the uncomfortable road, is the one where innovation begins. It forces you to grow at a pace you didn't think possible. It forces you to confront every weakness, every assumption, every blind spot. It forces you to operate outside the boundaries of what's known. And when you operate there, something powerful happens. You stop being reactive and start becoming adaptive. You stop asking for permission and start solving problems that no one else even sees yet. But to do that, you have to be willing to stay in the discomfort longer than anyone else. You have to treat pressure as a design parameter. You have to let discomfort guide your iteration cycles, your problem solving, your resilience. Most people will fold under that pressure. Most people will look for an exit ramp the moment the pain sets in. But if you're serious about building something that matters, then you have to flip your relationship with discomfort. You have to see it not as an obstacle, but as fuel. Not as something to avoid, but as something to lean into. Every difficult decision, every sleepless night, every rejected pitch, every failed test, it all becomes part of the architecture. It all becomes part of the infrastructure that supports your vision. There's a reason why so few people do work that truly moves the needle. It's not because they lack talent. It's because they can't handle the toll. They want the impact without the instability. They want the credit without the criticism. They want the rewards of bold action while staying wrapped in the bubble of comfort. But comfort doesn't create revolutions. Comfort doesn't make space for the improbable to become possible. If you want to make a dent in the universe, you better be ready to get bruised, because the process will bruise you. It will strip away every illusion you had about yourself. It will expose you, push you, stretch you, burn you down to your core, and then ask for more. You'll want to quit. You'll question everything. You'll wonder if it's worth it. And in those moments when the doubt is loud and the discomfort unbearable, that's when you choose. Not with your words, but with your actions. That's when you decide whether you're in this for the accolades or for the mission. Whether you're here to play it safe or to play for the edge, because the edge is where transformation happens. The edge is where everything begins. Discomfort is not an accident. It's the signal that you are doing something original. It's the indicator that you are stepping into terrain that hasn't been mapped yet. The very nature of doing meaningful work means you are operating in a space without a safety net. There are no guarantees, no script, no easy fallback plan, but there is progress if you stay in the fight. There is evolution if you trust the process. There is excellence if you demand more of yourself than anyone else ever will. That demand on your time, your focus, your mind, your energy. It is uncomfortable, but it is essential. You don't solve hard problems with soft thinking. You don't build resilient systems with fragile effort. You need to be forged in something stronger. That forging happens in discomfort. It happens in long days with no winds, in silent nights where the weight of the mission feels unbearable, in failed experiments and lost deals and broken models. But with every loss, you build a deeper layer of strength. With every setback, you gain insight. With every failure, you increase fidelity. The discomfort forces you to strip away the unnecessary. It forces you to focus on what actually matters. And when you've suffered enough to stop caring about external praise and started caring only about results, that's when you're ready to do something that lasts. People will see the result and assume it was genius. They'll see the product and assume it was luck. They'll see the success and ignore the strain that built it. But you'll know every part of it was paid for, in uncertainty, in effort, in sacrifice, in discomfort. That's the real cost. Not money, not time, but pain, tension, persistence. That's what it means to be built for something bigger. You take the hits and keep designing. You take the losses and keep learning. You take the friction and convert it into momentum. Discomfort becomes the signal that you're alive in the work, that you haven't chosen the default, that you're reaching beyond what is toward what could be. And that reach into discomfort, is what will separate you from the rest, because most people will pull back, but you'll keep going, you'll keep refining, you'll keep showing up, and the discomfort, it won't destroy you. It will define you. Progress demands obsession, not approval. The world is full of people waiting for a green light, waiting for consensus, waiting to be liked, validated, celebrated before they ever ship a product or test an idea. But if you're serious about building something that matters, you can't wait for applause. You can't wait for permission. You can't optimize your process around other people's comfort zones. You have to become obsessed with the problem you're trying to solve. Not casually interested, not conveniently curious, obsessed. The kind of obsession that keeps you thinking through the night, that compels you to look at every failure as a puzzle, that drives you to test again when nothing works, that fuels you to go deeper, not because someone asked you to, but because you have to. Progress is not a team sport unless the team is aligned with the same level of obsession. It's not built through democracy. It's built through direction, through focused, intense, uncomfortable pursuit of one core mission. And if you're leading that pursuit, you better be prepared to be misunderstood. You better be prepared to be doubted, criticized, even ridiculed. Because people don't trust what they can't comprehend, and obsession looks irrational to those who settle for ordinary. You don't get break through results from balanced effort. You get them from disproportionate intensity, from laser focus on a singular goal. You have to be willing to tune out the noise, ignore the feedback that doesn't align with your vision, and move forward even when it feels like you're alone in the pursuit. The progress you seek doesn't come from trying to please everyone. In fact, if you're pleasing everyone, you're almost certainly not progressing. Real progress disturbs the pattern. It challenges assumptions. It breaks things, and it takes someone obsessed with the outcome to keep building through the chaos. Because there will be chaos, plans will fail, timelines will collapse, people will quit, but the mission doesn't stop. The obsession doesn't weaken, it intensifies. The people who build the future don't wait for the future to welcome them. They drag it into the present through sheer force of will, and that will comes from obsession. Obsession means you ask questions that others overlook. You dig deeper into systems that others accept as final. You run simulations when others run away. You test 100 failed versions not because you enjoy failing, but because you're possessed by the belief that one of them will crack the code, that one of them will unlock a better outcome. It means you're not satisfied with surface-level metrics. You want to understand the mechanics, the infrastructure, the deeper logic. You want to dissect the friction points until they're reduced to clean systems. Obsession means you don't look at the clock. You look at the signal-to-noise ratio. You measure progress by momentum, not comfort. You drive forward, even when the data looks bleak, because your internal compass doesn't point to what's popular. It points to what's possible. Approval is a mirage. It's temporary, it's fickle. It depends on trends, preferences, emotions, none of which build strong systems. Approval is a reward for work already done. Obsession is the requirement for work that still needs doing. If you wait for people to agree before you act, you'll never lead. If you wait for them to understand, you'll never move fast enough. If you design your roadmap based on consensus, you'll build what's already been built. Obsession is what allows you to operate in ambiguity. It allows you to make decisions in incomplete environments. It forces clarity because you don't have the luxury of doubt. You're too busy building, too busy testing, too busy refining. While others debate, you deploy. While others wait, you iterate. That speed, that intensity, that forward motion, it doesn't come from approval. It comes from inner necessity. There is no version of disruptive progress that fits neatly into the frameworks of traditional approval. The very nature of innovation is to move faster than systems were designed to accommodate. And when you move faster, you break rules, you bend expectations, you challenge the logic that others rely on, and that's uncomfortable for people who need validation to move forward. But if you're obsessed, that discomfort doesn't scare you. It sharpens you, it confirms you're operating ahead of the curve. The best ideas, the most impactful breakthroughs, they always sound crazy at first. They always attract critics before they attract supporters. Obsession allows you to withstand that window, that brutal, lonely, necessary window where nobody gets it yet. And you have to keep building anyway. You don't need everyone to get it. You need the system to work. You need the prototype to survive stress tests. You need the architecture to hold under load. You need the vision to materialize, not to win a popularity contest. The applause comes later, if it comes at all. But that's not the goal. That's not what drives the obsessed. The reward is in the execution, in the code that compiles, in the data that aligns, in the system that functions under real-world strain. Obsession lets you keep going when enthusiasm fades. It becomes your operating system, your engine, your firewall against doubt. And that firewall is critical because no path worth walking is free from pushback. No invention worth building is free from ridicule. No truth worth sharing is free from resistance. Obsession allows you to push through that resistance, not just once, but again and again and again. Most people want to be liked. The obsessed want to build. Most people want reassurance. The obsessed want traction. Most people want consensus. The obsessed want clarity. That clarity comes from doing the work, not talking about it, not marketing it, not waiting for it to be understood. Just doing the work again and again with ruthless consistency. Obsession doesn't mean you're blind to feedback. It means you filter it. You separate signal from noise. You optimize your inputs. You refine your process. But you never dilute the mission. You never abandon the core for the comfort of approval. You hold the vision even when the results aren't immediate. You carry the weight even when nobody else sees it yet. That's how progress is built, not by committee, not by applause, but by those who are relentless enough to keep going when everyone else stops. When you're obsessed, your goal is execution, not explanation. You're not here to justify every move. You're not here to slow down so others can catch up. You're here to build, to test, to move. You're here to extract reality from theory, to convert complexity into simplicity, to deliver what others only imagine. That requires sacrifice, it requires discomfort, it requires tunnel vision so tight that everything else becomes secondary. The obsessed don't just think differently, they operate differently, they build differently, they scale differently. They don't ask, will this be accepted? They ask, will this solve the problem? And if the answer is yes, they proceed. They proceed without the need for cheerleaders, for congratulations, for external motivation. The work is the reward, the problem is the challenge, the solution is the obsession, and the obsession is what drives real, irreversible, undeniable progress. Failure is iteration, not the end. It is a necessary process embedded deep in the blueprint of progress. Every major advancement, every breakthrough, every product that redefines an industry has behind it a graveyard of failures that no one celebrates, but every builder remembers. The myth that success is a straight line is a dangerous illusion. In reality, it's a jagged, messy trajectory filled with broken prototypes, flawed assumptions, missteps, and restarts. What separates those who break through from those who give up is not talent or intelligence. It is the ability to reframe failure as data. Failure is not proof that you are incapable. It is proof that you are moving, that you are building, that you are experimenting in the real world rather than sitting safely in the realm of theory. When you attempt something bold, something that hasn't been done before, failure is not just probable. It is inevitable, but failure, when properly understood, is not a verdict. It is a version that didn't work. And the only rational response is to study it, learn from it, refine it, and try again with higher fidelity. Iteration is not glamorous. It is slow. It is frustrating. It demands an incredible tolerance for ambiguity and disappointment. But it is also the most powerful engine for innovation known to humankind. When something fails, it offers feedback, and that feedback is often far more valuable than success. Success can conceal weakness. It can create false confidence. Failure exposes everything. It tells you where your assumptions were wrong, where your systems are fragile, where your thinking is incomplete. Every failure gives you a sharper lens, a clearer view, a better approximation of what will work. But only if you keep going, only if you keep testing. The real tragedy is not in failing. It's in quitting after the first, second, or third iteration and missing the breakthrough that might have come at version 8 or 10 or 21. Failure is painful, but it is also incredibly informative. It is how you train your mind to think in systems, to anticipate friction, to recognize patterns, to build robustness into your designs. The people who do meaningful work are not the ones who got it right the first time. They are the ones who refused to stop at wrong. They saw failure as part of the process. They embraced it not because they enjoyed it, but because they understood it. The process of iteration creates resilience. It creates clarity. It forces you to decouple your ego from your output. You stop taking failure personally and start treating it professionally. You stop seeing mistakes as identity and start seeing them as information. Every product that works today was once a product that didn't. Every solution that looks obvious now was once buried under layers of flawed thinking and broken logic. But someone had to work through it. Someone had to keep going. Someone had to fail over and over without letting it derail their mission. That's what iteration demands. Not just technical skill or strategic thinking, but emotional endurance. Failure often invites embarrassment. It draws criticism. It makes you vulnerable, but vulnerability is the cost of growth. You can't build something original while hiding from risk. You can't protect your pride and reach your potential at the same time. If you want to lead, if you want to innovate, if you want to shape the future rather than just exist in it, you have to be willing to fail in public. You have to be willing to be wrong, loudly and visibly, because that's where the best data lies. You don't learn as much from perfect execution as you do from a flawed one that reveals hidden variables. That's the power of iteration. It uncovers what you didn't know you didn't know. It forces your ideas into contact with the real world and strips away the illusions. What's left is the raw material you need to build something that actually works in any meaningful venture. You will hit walls. You will launch something you thought was perfect, only to watch it collapse under pressure. You will build a feature that nobody uses. You will pitch ideas that get rejected. You will invest in a direction that turns out to be a dead end. But each of these failures is a node in your network of understanding. Each one gives you new data points, new insights, new connections. Iteration is not just about trying again. It's about trying better, trying with more precision, more awareness, more depth. You become less reactive and more intentional. Less hopeful and more strategic. You stop swinging wildly and start refining your aim. And with every iteration, your odds of success increase, not because you're lucky, but because you're learning in layers. You're adapting, you're evolving. There is a massive difference between failing and being a failure. The former is a moment, the latter is a mindset. If you believe failure is final, you will retreat at the first sign of resistance. You will internalize every setback as a reflection of your value. But if you believe failure is iteration, you will keep showing up. You will keep building. You will keep pushing the edge of what's possible. The best builders in the world are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who recover quickly, who reframe the problem, who understand that the path to success is paved with failed attempts, that each brought them one step closer to the solution. You don't become great by avoiding failure. You become great by metabolizing it, by using it as fuel, by transforming every breakdown into a break. Through iteration is not something you do once in a while. It is a lifestyle, it is a mindset, it is a commitment to never settle for the first version of anything, not your product, not your process, not your understanding of the problem. It's the belief that there is always a better version if you're willing to look for it. If you're willing to break things, if you're willing to let go of your attachment to what should work and instead focus on what does, that shift from rigidity to flexibility, from ego to exploration, is what unlocks real growth. Because when you're obsessed with getting it right, you stop fearing getting it wrong. You stop hiding behind excuses and start confronting the hard truths. You start building with the expectation that the first few versions won't work. And that's fine, because you're not chasing perfection. You're chasing performance, and performance improves through testing, through feedback, through iteration. The culture around you might reward perfection. It might elevate the highlight reel and ignore the behind. The scene's chaos, but you're not here for optics. You're here for outcomes. You're not building for applause. You're building for durability. That requires failure, not once, many times over and over, until the system stabilizes, until the product solves the right problem, until the solution becomes obvious. And when that moment comes, people will forget how many versions it took. They'll forget the setbacks. They'll only see the result, but you'll remember. You'll remember every late night, every redesign, every frustrating test, and you'll know that none of it was wasted, because failure was never the end. It was always the iteration that brought you here. Legacy is built by those who endure the unknown. It's not built by those who play it safe, who wait for guarantees, who only move when the outcome is already proven. Legacy requires walking into fog with nothing but conviction. It demands making decisions without certainty, acting without approval, pushing forward without a clear path. It's the product of people who are willing to be misunderstood, doubted, criticized, even mocked for long periods of time, because they refuse to compromise with average. They don't just chase goals. They pursue missions. Missions that outlast their own comfort, missions that remain intact even when everything else crumbles. These individuals aren't driven by applause, they're driven by purpose. They're driven by a need to build something that matters, something that extends beyond them, something that changes the trajectory for others, for the world, for the future. When you operate in the unknown, you operate without a map. You don't get the luxury of following a path someone else already cleared. You have to cut through the noise yourself. You have to build systems from scratch, question assumptions everyone else accepts, and operate in real time while absorbing real consequences. That takes resilience, but more than that, it takes belief. A belief that even if no one understands yet, even if no one supports yet, even if the outcome is still out of reach, the process is worth it. Legacy isn't given. It's forged in difficulty. It's forged in the spaces where most people hesitate and only a few are willing to step in and build. You don't get to talk your way into legacy. You earn it. Every decision you make in the dark is a brick. Every risk you take without assurance is another brick. Every failure you survive, every moment you persist without recognition, every time you keep moving forward with no audience, no reward, no guarantee, that's the blueprint. The unknown is not something to fear. It's something to master, because in the unknown is where original thinking is born. It's where real impact is created. It's where the problems no one else is solving begin to reveal themselves to those willing to listen closely and build quietly. Enduring the unknown doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means you're willing to keep asking better questions. It means you're willing to run experiments without expecting applause. It means you're okay with people not understanding what you're doing for a while. Maybe a long while, because legacy is never about instant gratification. Legacy is long-term, it's slow, it's heavy, and it requires patience with the process. It requires the ability to carry vision even when no one else sees it. Building legacy means you don't measure progress by validation. You measure it by direction. You measure it by how much closer you are to solving a real problem, to delivering real value, to executing on something that matters. The unknown throws you curveballs, introduces volatility, tests your endurance, and demands adaptation. It forces you to grow, to sharpen, to let go of weak ideas and build stronger ones. And each time you adapt, each time you recover, each time you upgrade your operating system in response to pressure, you lay another layer of foundation under your legacy. You earn trust not by pretending to know everything, but by proving you can navigate anything. People don't follow those who always have the answers. They follow those who keep moving forward no matter how complex the question. Those who build legacy are not loud at the beginning. They're not concerned with spectacle. They are obsessed with function. They are builders, not performers. Their reward isn't fame, it's effectiveness. It's seeing something they created solve a problem that once seemed unsolvable. It's knowing that their work created options that didn't exist before. It's watching their vision become infrastructure, their ideas become standards. But none of that happens without enduring the unknown, without sitting in silence and building anyway, without facing setbacks and showing up again, without hearing no after no and still continuing with yes-level effort. Most people don't make it that far because most people aren't willing to sit in the discomfort long enough. They want answers too soon, they want recognition too early, they want clarity before they're willing to contribute. But the people who build legacy understand that the work comes first. Always the unknown is not chaos. It's potential, it's untapped possibility. It's the raw space where builders carve out new ground. It tests your commitment. It demands clarity of mission. Because when you don't have direction, the unknown will consume you. But when you do have direction, the unknown becomes your advantage. You see what others don't. You move before others are ready. You set trends instead of following them, but you only get that edge if you endure the silence. If you endure the lack of results. If you endure the pressure that comes with staking your name on something that doesn't exist yet. Every moment you spend working inside the unknown adds weight to your legacy. It shows you weren't just chasing easy wins. It proves you were in it to change something. Real legacy is not about scale, it's about depth. It's about whether the thing you built can stand without you. Whether it carries your fingerprints long after you're gone. Whether it serves a need that continues to exist long after you've stopped talking about it. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because you showed up in the unknown again and again. You tested when no one was watching, you failed without quitting, you built while being ignored, and over time the compound effect of that persistence becomes impossible to deny. It becomes infrastructure. It becomes momentum. It becomes a force so strong that others begin to build on top of it. The process of enduring the unknown also refines you as a person. You become immune to noise, immune to panic, immune to shallow criticism. You learn to think longer, act sharper, operate cleaner. You don't need the environment to be stable. You become stable within chaos. That stability makes you dangerous in the best way. It means you can take more risk, carry more load, execute with more intensity. And that is how legacy moves, not in hype cycles, not in press releases, in execution, in iteration. In discipline, repeated over time, under pressure, without shortcuts. People often talk about what they want to be remembered for, but memory is not legacy. Memory fades. Legacy endures. It endures because it was built through friction, through stress, through unknown territory. It's not about how many people remember your name. It's about how many lives are still impacted by the work you did, the system you created, the problem you solved. Legacy is utility at scale, and utility requires resilience. It requires the ability to get up when the results don't match the effort, to reset when your vision hits a wall, to continue building systems when everyone else moves on to trends. That is what defines the people who leave something behind that matters. Enduring the unknown is not glamorous. It will never look good on a highlight reel. It won't go viral. It won't trend, but it will compound. It will stack. It will quietly become the architecture of something massive, and one day, long after the doubts and rejections and silence have passed, the thing you built will stand, it will work, it will serve. And those who doubted you won't even remember why they did, because legacy has that effect. It outlasts noise, it outlasts trends, it outlasts you.